Hello, hello.
Hi.
Oh my goodness. Look at us. We're here.
Look at us.
Look at us.
Look at us.
We got the setup and everything.
This is amazing.
This is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Hello, friends. Hello, family. Hello, everyone. This is the first official Live Authentically podcast, and I'm so excited to have everyone here. And I'm so excited to have you on here, Mom, on this wonderful podcast that we are starting up. I feel that in this journey of authenticity, it is only right to have you as the first guest and first official podcast member to really dive into living authentically and what the journey of authenticity has been about for me and for you, because I think we have really been parallels in that journey of self-discovery and discovery of authenticity. So I'm so excited to really get into this with you. So excited that we're doing this and that we are here. We got the mics, we got the cameras, and so, you know, we're just going to treat this like any other conversation that we have on any other regular day.
Absolutely.
But I do want to just, number one, start off with thank you so much for being my mom. And thank you so much for the wonderful wisdom that you have taught me, the wonderful, just complete, utter support that you give me in everything that I do. And happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Thank you. I feel very honored to be here.
I love you so much.
I love you too.
So yeah, that's the little gist of the starting point real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first question I really want to open up with, and it's kind of a cliche question, but I think it'll segue us into everything we need to get into. What does living authentically mean to you, Mom?
Well, I think living authentically starts with courage.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first step of living authentically for me is having the courage to know what I want in this world. What do I want to be? What do I want to represent? How do I want to carry myself? And what message do I want to give out into the world? So that starts with courage. That starts with you looking within yourself. And that starts with looking at all pieces. You know, it talks the light, the dark, the good, the bad, the indifferent, all of those pieces. Yeah. And once you have that in place, then you start to build what that is. And it starts with questions like this. It starts with questions like, if you could manifest anything into the world, what would it be? Right? And all of that starts to culminate, and you start to build that inner conversation that you're having with yourself, and that starts to radiate out into the world. Oh. And so once you begin that journey, and once you start believing in what it is that you want, and you start going for it, and you start working towards it, then everything starts to come into play. And then the hard work is maintaining it, right? And maintaining that confidence and that conviction and the consistency.
Absolutely.
So all the C's, really, right?
Yeah. The 3 C's, as we call them.
Yeah, right. And at the end of the day, that's where you are. And when you start to look back and you start to realize where did I start this journey? When did it start for me? Right. Then that's when you're actually living with authenticity, and you're living in that realm of, this is what I am. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. That is such a beautiful way to open this up. Such a beautiful, because it's literally been everything we've been talking about, especially these last couple of weeks. And I think it's been interesting kind of seeing where we're at in these last couple of weeks, because it feels like, you know, we are really honing in on that conviction and that courage piece, right? And that confidence part in both of us. You know, I feel it in myself. I see it emanating from you. You know, we are both emanating this pure, you know, vibration of authenticity. And I know that because it feels right in my heart, in my body. You know, every part of me, every piece of me feels, you know, vibrationally aligned in myself. You know, I think for a long time, you know, I could just feel it in my body, you know, that, hey, this is not where I need to be for myself. This is not living authentically. This is not who I am.
Right.
But I do think that you have to go through those points to really find what living authentically means to you.
Right.
You know, just like you said, you have to go through those dark moments. You have to go and do the shadow work. You have to do all the pieces to really find that authenticity within yourself, right?
Right.
And so it's beautiful where we're at right now. And, you know, not to say that the journey is over by any means, but, you know, I would like to think that we are definitely more and more confident and convicted in our authentic selves.
Right.
And I think that's a really beautiful thing. But yeah, let's get into it though, and let's share what some of those really hard pieces were, you know, in your journey especially, and, you know, we can open up even into my journey, what those really hard pieces were. And I'm just going to adjust this camera a little bit more because I don't want you to be out of frame. But what some of those pieces were that really shook up the journey, right? Really were those hard moments, you know?
Well, I have to kind of start from way back where I begin, right?
And we can start at the beginning, absolutely. I think that's only right.
So looking at me as a person now, looking at my life, the lifestyle I lead, the career that I hold, being, you know, a teacher and live and working in education and everything else, didn't just happen for me, right? Mm-hmm. There wasn't a level of entitlement that was there for me that granted me that position to be where I'm at now. You know, we had to start from the bottom, and you know this. You've traveled to some of the neighborhoods that I lived in growing up, and it was tough. I mean, it was hard. Yeah. There wasn't anything easy about where I lived and what I did. But the one thing that I reminded myself every day is going into school is that this is a safe space for me. And this is a place that's going to get me to the next level. And so having that understanding of what that was and what I needed to do, it was a path. And that was my focus. I would get up and I knew that I was going to be good at something. I was going to go do something that I loved. I was going to feel safe. I was going to learn. All those pieces came together. And no matter what I had to go through it at a different time, you know, at home or, you know, getting to school, you know, or coming home, I knew I was going to get there. And I knew that I had to work hard to do it. So on top of that, I worked 3 different jobs. I've worked since I was 10 years old, you know, just babysitting. And every day of my life, I've worked. And so for me, it was always innate for me to just keep going, just keep moving forward, no matter what. Yeah. The movement, the momentum was always there. And I trusted that in myself, that no matter what I'm doing, I'm not stuck. Yeah. I'm not in this victimized role of trapped or a victim of circumstance. Now, I was a victim of abuse, and I was a victim of all types of abuse. Mm-hmm. However, those were short moments when I was too young to be able to defend myself. But once I was old enough to know how to handle myself, then I knew where I had to go. Yeah. And so I didn't hold myself in that victim role. I held myself as a warrior, as a fighter, as an advocate for my younger brother and sister, for everything that I stood for. So that became the fire. That became the purpose. And that's where I knew I needed to carry on with myself and become an educator and be an advocate for children. Yeah. Fierce advocate for children, because I knew how important it was to have those. Mm. And I've had a few of my own growing up. And so I was able to know how important those people were. You know, we call them enlightened witnesses, to watch and to be there and to support and to help you get to that next place, to encourage you. Those kinds of things. And then I, you know, made sure to carry that out. And so every day of my life, I worked hard to get there. And even when you came along, a little bit of a surprise, but we were really excited. And we worked hard to give you the life that we knew that you needed to have. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just about status. It wasn't just about demographics. It wasn't just about where we lived and how we lived. It was about instilling inside of you how important you were and how much you were valued.
Yeah.
You were loved, you were seen,
Yeah.
and you were heard.
And I think that's so real. And I was even thinking about it at dinner today, when, Dad was talking about, don't be a sheep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's been something that you guys have instilled in me since the earliest age I can remember. Don't be a sheep. Don't follow the masses. Don't give into the masses and really embody yourself. And, it's beautiful because, like, I always want to think that I came up on all of this on my own, right? Like, I discovered all of this, this was all my self-discovery. But if it weren't for you guys embodying these fundamental ideas into my entire existence, I would not be here, having a whole message and brand about living authentically, right?
Right.
And so that has always been such a prevalent thing that you and Dad have raised me to be, which I think is beautiful. And also I just want to speak on the part where you being an advocate for children, you being a teacher, like that just like clicked right now for me. Like, you hearing you say that, like, okay, wow, that you really did, take that and transmute that into something beautiful, where now you are such a beautiful advocate for children and such a beautiful, light to their day. And even, you telling me how you're teaching them angel numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just the little things, like, I remember the effect that my childhood teachers had on me, right? Even Valle, right?
Right.
So, like, being able to be that light for children,
Mm-hmm.
I think is such a beautiful thing. And being able to turn something, such as abuse or any troubling things like that into a rather beautiful expression of you it's beautiful to see, and it's beautiful to witness. And yeah.
Thanks.
Absolutely. But that goes to show that, like, authenticity is definitely, I think it's very interesting, right? Because maybe I have like blinders on or something. Like, every time someone, anywhere, anything says the word authenticity, it's like a buzzword for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And authenticity is often a buzzword that a lot of people throw around and stuff, but I think the word itself does not really truly do justice to what it means to embody authenticity.
Right.
And what it means to really dive into yourself, right? And really, because it's easy to say don't be a sheep, don't give into the masses, but also that means going against everybody and like going against your entire, upbringing and everything like that. Not even upbringing, but mostly societal pressures, right?
Sure.
And that's something that I have faced and am still facing on a regular. But the more and more that, I fearlessly have the courage to embody who I am, to be the authentic being I am, and do the things that I know bring me joy or, are aligned in my purpose, or at least that just feel good on some level.
Right.
The more that I feel life flowing for me, the more that I feel life coming together for me. And it's when I give into the masses, or I give into someone else's idea of what I should be doing, that I trip myself up a lot.
Right.
And so that has been a prevalent thing throughout my entire journey, is like, okay, listening to everybody, oh, you should do this, or you should go there, or you should do this, or make sure you're doing this thing, or do you have this, or all these different things. And I'm like, okay. And I'm, kind of going back and forth to all these different ideas of what someone else says is what's best for me.
Right.
And I get nowhere. I get absolutely nowhere. I get stuck in a cycle. And so finally, at some point, I was like, yo, like, screw this, like, I'm not gonna keep doing this. I know what feels right to me.
Yeah.
And the more that I make that choice every day, every moment, right? That consistency you were talking about, because you can do it once, but that's not really going to get you anywhere. You have to sincerely stand on your ground, stand in conviction
Right.
with yourself, with who you are, and say, this is who I am, and that's it, right? And it doesn't matter what you're going to say about it. It doesn't matter how you're going to feel about it, because at the end of the day, it's not your life.
Agreed.
And so I think that sentiment alone, like, I want to dive into that, like, what had to happen for you to get to that conviction point, right? Because for me personally, I had to fail over and over. I had to hit the deepest lows, right? I had to hit points in my life where it just felt absolutely terrible, right? For me to finally stand up and have the courage to be authentic in myself. So I want to extend that conversation to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was hitting moments of just darkness, of total anxiety, right? I equate it to when I started therapy. I had moments where the only safe space for me was in a closet, where I had to literally be surrounded by something and just feel enclosed and safe and in this dark space that I could just reset. So any moment that I had when I was in a closet, that's when I knew that things were dark and things had gone to that point, had gotten to that point for me. And they needed to happen. They were necessary. Those moments needed to be where they were, so that I could identify them, so that I could pick up on them, so that I could be, see that trigger happen and acknowledge it and nurture myself back to where I needed to be. So it's, you and I've talked a lot about inner child work and nurturing the inner child, coming in and finding and being the mother that I needed to be for myself.
Yeah.
And just comforting that inner child and talking myself into, you're safe, you're okay kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of moments like that throughout my life where I know I needed to get to that next level. It's like, okay, you're here. This is rock bottom. Now there's no other way but up. And by doing that, having enough moments like that, those were always turning moments for me. Those were always moments of like, all right, I'm going to do the work. Okay, now I know I need to do the work. I need to find out what this is. I need to find out what works for me. And kind of back to your point about not following the masses, following what works for you. You have to know the masses. You have to understand the masses in this. And you need to understand society to a degree, so that you know what you want from that. So it's like a buffet, right? You're just like, okay, I'm going to pick this. I'm going to pick this. I want to pick this, but not that. I don't want that.
If you're not figuring out what you do want, you're figuring out what you don't want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not necessarily that level of, oh yeah, well, I'm just going to follow along a path.
Right.
It's choosing the path.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about the road not taken, right? The two roads diverged in a wood, my favorite, right? Robert Frost poem. And you always come to two roads.
Yeah.
This isn't just, okay, these are the only roads and that's it and we're ready to go. You're constantly coming to two roads, whether it's within your day, whether it's within a year, whether it's within, a goal that you're trying to reach or a milestone that you're trying to get to. And there's always a choice in everything that you do. And once you understand that and you, again, stop villainizing and victimizing, there are no villains and victims. There just aren't. There's choices, but I don't think anyone, unless they are seriously harming you as a child and abusing you in that sense of the word, there are no villains. So there's just people living. And what they do affects you, and what they do, especially if you really care about them and you're on this journey with them. But at the end of the day, no one's doing anything purposely against you. They're just making choices that they decide to make, right? And you've got to live in that for a minute. And once you're able to take yourself, you go within yourself and then it's kind of like that accordion effect. Like, I'm going in, but then I'm going to take a step back and kind of look at it from a different point of view. Or I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to kind of look at, see, the forest for the trees instead of just that one tree. So you constantly have to go back and forth in and out of that space so that you can really understand what's going on. So yeah, I would say to that degree, we're not necessarily following the masses, but we have to see the masses and decide what parts we want to take from that and what parts we want to make ours and own it.
Wow. There's so many things that you just opened up there that I really want to kind of get into. The first thing that came to mind, though, was, when you talk about the two diverging paths, right? I remember the day that I was really sitting with myself on making the decision to leave school. I drew that exact kind of image in my journal. And I remember really just journaling about it, going deep into it, of recognizing, okay, there's this path over here of staying in school, and there's this path over here that is unknown. But I know that the path of pursuing myself, of pursuing my artistry, my music, and, the message of living authentically, that resonates with my soul more than anything else. And so it's like you're on this diverging path, and it's really, it's scary, because like this path, you can see what happens, right? You can see the probable outcome. In this path, you have no clue, right? And it's like if this path over here is like the Wizard of Oz, or the way that I even think about it is the Phineas and Ferb version of the Wizard of Oz. That one episode of how they're like, let's take all these paths. They look so fun and like so, and then and they're like, I don't even know if it's Phineas and Ferb, but it was something in it. It was like, nah, we're gonna stay on this path, kind of thing, right? Because this is what the wicked, witch told us that we have to follow, and it's like the scary dark woods and like, just like all of the crazy stuff, and so like, it's like following that scary path, because that at the end of the day, that path is going to be the right one for you, no matter how scary, how dark, how much you have to go into it. And for me, that meant so many things, right? That meant going deep into myself. And, I want to bring in another point here, because I thought I had it figured out, right? Like, I thought I could see what this path looked like. I thought I was like, yeah, I got it. It's bingo bongo, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got it, right? And then the more I went down, I was like, oh, okay. Right? These are these parts that I have to really reclaim my power on. These are these parts that I really have to sit with. These are these parts that I really have to reconcile with, right? And so there are so many like parts of that, where like I think it's very funny, because, and this is why I really wanted to do this podcast in the first place, because on the surface level, living authentically, it looks all fun and great, right? Like, it's like wonderful. Yeah, that's a wonderful message. But I haven't gone into the deep parts of it, right? The not so glamorous parts, the not Instagram worthy parts, right? The parts where I was depressed, right? The parts where I really fell into some darkness, the parts where I didn't know what I was doing with my life, the parts where I really lost myself just to reclaim myself again. And I want to emphasize that again. Sometimes you do have to lose yourself to find yourself again, right? Sometimes you have to lose all these parts of yourself to find these parts of you and really, embody that going forward.
Right.
But yeah.
And I think more to that point of the unknown, right? You have to strip yourself of all of those pieces to really find yourself. We talked a lot about, and those are the messy parts, right? Those are the really like mind blowing, oh my gosh, my life is falling apart, like, and everything is drama and everything is crazy. but they have to happen, because if you are on a path that you cannot live authentically, and you cannot allow yourself to really be yourself in those positions, or you are losing so much of yourself, or your whole light is just dimmed in that space, then you have to find a way to blow it all up.
Yeah.
Just blow it all up,
Yep.
and then see what happens after, everything's said and done, and the dust settles and everything calms down for a minute.
Yep.
And then pick it up from there and see what's left, and see what you can reconstruct and what you can start over with.
Right. It's like demolishing a building, right? You have to demolish that building to rebuild this new building, right?
Right.
But it's a lot of carnage, it's a lot of mess, it's a lot of debris everywhere, it's a lot of stuff that you have to really shovel up and get out of here, kind of thing. And that's what, finding your authentic self really feels like, right? Is having this old building, that should not still be standing, kind of thing, and it shouldn't be standing, so you demolish it. But that demolition takes a while, right? It takes a while to clean up, and then from there you can rebuild and become whatever the next building is, kind of thing. But
And you reclaim your power that way.
you do.
You do. You just come to a place where you're just like, okay, I have to be stripped of all of those things.
Right.
Like our story that we talk a lot about with Anana.
Yep. You have to go down to those
goddess,
depths of yourself,
right?
And for me, there was so many things that I really had to reclaim. There's a lot of parts that I had to go into on so many things, dealing with projections of what I'm projecting onto my external reality, and parts of myself that I had to sit with day in, day out, and really heal. And literally, you talk about the trauma narrative that you did for therapy, doing the same thing of going back into every part of my life, right? And just looking and sitting with parts that I need to heal, parts that I need to reframe and transmute into a different way of looking at it, so that I don't create those same circumstances, those same karmic, just experiences in my life. And so I think it's a tough process, it is really, it is a lot, it is so much work.
Yeah.
So much work. And that's what people, say when they're like, you got to do the work, man. You got to do the work. But also you don't have to always, I want to preface, you don't have to necessarily be finished with the work to be your authentic self. You're never finished, right? Like, it's like cleaning a house or cleaning anything. You don't just clean something once and then it's forever clean. You constantly clean things. You constantly keep up with things. And I think the mental and everything in your physical is the same, and your spiritual it's the same. You got to continue to upkeep, continue to heal, continue to, really check in with things and do those dishes, right?
All the time.
All
And
the
laundry.
time. Yeah.
Well, I think there's an ebb and flow of things, and you're going to come back to different parts of it at different times.
Yeah.
You're going to be triggered at different times in different ways that you have to come to grips with and come to terms with.
Yeah.
And instead of pushing it down, because my biggest thing growing up was to shove it back down.
Yeah.
Is to really suppress it all.
Right.
And to the point where then I couldn't bury it anymore.
Yeah.
So then it's coming out, right?
Yeah.
So for me, having a voice and sharing where I am at the present moment, and having people that I really can be my true self with, without judgment, without that space where people just can put you in that box, right? Without the labels, without all those pieces, having people show up, having people, just be there, be a witness to all of it, instead of trying to push me in one direction or another. Now, granted, I have amazing friends. I have amazing people around me, and I cultivated that tribe. I had to work to cultivate that tribe of people. And that includes men and women. Like, just, it's a tribe. It's a true tribe.
Yeah.
And in order for that to happen, that almost started in the midst of this journey for me, because I was always a people pleaser. I was always, the person that was just going to go above and beyond for absolutely everybody, no matter who showed up or who didn't, because that abandonment caused me to want to do that all the time. Because if I felt like if I just did everything for everybody, then they would never leave.
Yeah.
And that never was the case.
Right.
I put too much into people and didn't have that cushion for me.
Right.
And so there's a balance of having that space for yourself and that reciprocity and that ability to give whatever you give out, you give back to yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And then, there's the level of equity of showing up for people when they need you to show up, not whenever and however and all the time.
Right.
Just when they need you.
Yeah.
To do that.
And if you're filling your cup up, you're good, right?
Right.
Like, as long as your cup is full, you have the space for it.
Right.
And you have the space to hold that space for another person.
Right.
But when you are, when your cup is empty and you're trying to fill someone else's cup up, and it's
you got nothing.
You got nothing left in there. Yeah.
Right. And you're not really giving your authentic self.
Right.
You're giving whatever you think they might need.
Yeah.
You're giving, a depleted version of yourself.
Yeah.
And people will see that. They'll feel that.
Yeah. And that energy is everything. And just like
Absolutely.
you said, like, amidst this journey, you'll find, because for me, it was a lot of people falling off from my life, right? A lot of people not really, we're not really on the same wavelength anymore, and that's okay. We kind of all shift and evolve into whatever we need to be. But, a lot of people fell off from my life, and, I remember telling you over and over, like, man, like, I don't really have a lot of people right now. I just have myself. But, like, the more and more I felt comfortable in that, the more in being like, okay, I have myself.
Right.
That's all I need, right? And not in a, like, I don't want people type of way, but in a way, like, there's a level of love that I can give to myself and value myself at this level
that
to
no one
a
else can
point.
give
It
you.
doesn't matter what anybody is doing. I'm authentic in myself. I feel good for just being able to be me. And that alone will attract a whole different wavelength of people.
Yeah.
To now where, I just run into people out of nowhere, just doing my thing, doing what feels right to me. And people out of nowhere, will come to just share the love, to, really connect with me on a level that, just clicks instantly. Right.
Right.
And that was really what that whole piece of Don't Chase Attract was about, right?
Yes.
To not necessarily chase anything, anybody, or anything in the sense of something in another person, right? Because all you really have to realize, it's all within you. That energy that you're seeking in someone else or something else is in you, within you already. That is your authentic form, right?
Absolutely.
Authentically, we are everything that we seek. And so once you realize that, you stop chasing people. You stop trying to please people. You stop trying to force anything or fit in a box or any of that, because you realize that your energy is your vibe is going to attract your tribe. Right?
Absolutely. And I put that on my vision board for many, many years. And it finally cultivated itself,
Absolutely.
And looking at it now and seeing all the people that I surround myself with.
Right.
But I do think that it comes down to self-worth.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. That is such a topic we have to talk about.
Yes.
We have to get into, and we have to talk about self-worth, because that is such a pillar of really, cultivating the authentic energies in your life, right?
Absolutely.
Is self-worth and realizing that self-worth within yourself.
But I think that's the energy, right? So we talk about cups being filled and not filled. It's not that we don't have the energy to give to people. I think we always have energy to give to people if we can. However,
but how often do you give it to yourself?
How often do you give it to yourself? And how often do you think you deserve it? How often do you think you're worth that?
Yeah.
And that's that piece that you're giving out to the world and not back to yourself. It's how much do I deserve that? How much do I deserve that type of time and that space and that nurturing?
Yeah.
And once that self-worth comes into place, that's what people are attracted to.
Yeah.
Because they know that you're worth it.
Yeah.
You deserve this.
Yeah.
Right? There is no guilt and shame that needs to be involved in this.
Right.
And that's what people start to get attracted to, because it's that space that you're not only giving out to them, but you're giving out for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother space. Like I mean, we've talked a lot about people falling off for me as well. I think I've always kind of seen myself as a catalyst to some degree. So I'm here to help you to the next level, to the next step, whatever that next milestone in your life is, or whatever the case may be. And I used to know that I was this person for some people, but then it would always hurt because they would leave, because they'd be on to the next step, right?
Right.
And I had to come to terms with, that's okay. Yeah. It's okay for them to go and do what they need to do. It's okay for them to move on and do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And I don't just need people to always show up. I just need to show up for myself.
Right.
And the people that can show up will be there, and the people that can't, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to be okay with your journey and knowing that everyone else has this other journey that they're on. And you just got to let them be. Because at the end of the day, if you continue to concern yourself with someone else's journey, then you're not living your own. And we should all have that space. Now, again, we can hold space for people. We can be that catalyst. We can be whatever it is that they need at the time. But as long as we're continuing to know that we're worth that as well.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and the right people will be there.
Yeah.
The right people will show up. The right people will stay. And if I think, though, the hardest part for me with people is communication. Say what you mean what you say. Don't be afraid to speak up and say, hey, I just can't hold that space right now. Or, hey, I need to focus on this right now. Like, to me, that's, you know, having conversations like this, checking in and letting people know where you are. Like, I think so many people get afraid of that if they really speak where they're at, then, you know, they're going to lose things or people or whatever the case may be. And I think that you just have to communicate. Open communication is the key to allowing people to just live freely and do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And honesty, just real, raw honesty.
That's it.
You know, I can appreciate someone who can tell me exactly where they are.
Yeah.
Or where they think they are, or that they're lost and they're not sure where they are. Right. Whatever the case may be, like, just speak that.
Just be genuine. Like, we're all, like one of the biggest things is, like, none of us have it figured out. We're all just, like, really, really just trying out here, right?
Right.
And, you know, I want to add something, because the self-love part and the self-worth have been such an, like, important part of my journey in the last couple months, right? And I think the biggest part I want to kind of, you know, focus on in that is, number one, like, self-worth and you know, it really is defined by a lot of things, right? What my journey kind of looked into it was healing all of the past wounds that I had accumulated, where I had denoted my self-worth and have diminished my self-worth and said, you know, I'm not worthy because of this, right? Dealing with that shame and guilt of any past mistakes and saying, well, I'm not worthy because of this. And really, really understanding that those don't define you. None of those things define you. What defines you is what you decide to do right now. What defines you is how you choose to learn and grow from your mistakes, from, you know, past experiences, or even, you know, if it was an external kind of circumstance that diminished your self-worth, right? Knowing that was a projection of someone else's own internal battles and not a reflection of you. That to me has been such an integral part of learning to let go of the past, learning to let go of all of these mistakes that I thought, you know, was defining in my worth. Letting go of past programming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Programming's a big thing, especially now in society, right? You know, feeling shameful for just being you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's such a big thing that we really need to get over, right?
Yep.
Like, you are a beautiful expression of life. You are infinitely worthy. You are, you know, there's nothing that you have to do, be, or have to be worthy. You
Mhm.
are already inherently worthy.
Right.
You are already inherently enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, right here, today, nothing else attached. That is your natural state.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not even about the self-worth part anymore after that. It's loving yourself. It's learning to love yourself. It's learning to say, okay, I know I'm worthy, yada, 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 right? But then still getting up every day, looking in the mirror, and just being nice to yourself, right?
Yeah.
You know, like
No
having
kidding.
not having that internal monologue be like, oh, crap, I didn't do this today, or oh, crap, you know, I made this mistake, or oh, crap, that interaction was weird, you know, I said the wrong things or something like
Mhm.
that, or I'm doing this wrong. And like, just stop all that
Mm-hmm.
for a second, just breathe.
Mm-hmm. It's
You are
being
worthy.
at peace with yourself.
It's a lot of peace that you begin to find.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you can be at peace with yourself, the more that you can allow things to just happen the way that they do, the more that you can learn to love yourself and everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's going to get you there.
Yeah. I want to absolutely take a second on that,
Mm-hmm.
and stop it right there for right now,
Mm-hmm.
because I do have to change the camera settings a little bit.
That's fine. And I
Yeah.
we're going to say hi.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, let's take a little break real
Little
quick.
break? Okay. This is fun.
What's going on, guys? If you've been watching this far, I want to really just say thank you for watching. I love you so much, and I appreciate you for listening and tuning into this podcast today. If you could, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, as that really helps us out, reach as many people as possible, and just promote the message of living authentically, and helps us expand and grow as a community. Anyway, wanted to share my love and appreciation to you. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me in my heart. But yeah, let's go ahead and get back into the podcast, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
Well, I would say just being on the peace aspect of it, right? People think that peace just needs to be, everything needs to be calm and cool and collected, and you're just constantly, you know, just in that state of zen, and, you know, you never swear and you never lose your mind,
Yeah.
and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I think that it's a different level of peace when it's quiet in your mind. And it doesn't necessarily mean that everything around you isn't chaotic, or that everything around you isn't, you know, moving and shaking and constantly doing what it needs to be. It doesn't mean that it's never turbulent. It just means if you can find some quiet space in your mind, then you can get back to that space when you need to. You can always return to that space. And it took me a really long time to realize I had that inside of me, that I could comfort myself to get myself to that level. I could find a quiet space within myself to work with. And that's the piece that we're talking about. That's that self-worth. That's all the courage. That's everything culminating together,
Right.
for that authenticity piece.
Yeah.
If you don't have peace in your mind and in your heart, like you were saying, like, this feels right. When I'm doing these particular things, X, Y, and Z, this feels right. And that's the piece that we're talking about. Not necessarily, oh, it has to be just calm and quiet.
Yeah.
Everything else.
Right.
Everything else can be blaring around you. I mean, I'm sure, you know, even being in New York sometimes, I know you felt that peace
Yeah.
because you were doing things that were working towards what feels right to you.
Right. Yeah. It is a different kind of feeling, and I don't think it is the mainstream kind of peace that, or buzzword of the peace that people kind of talk about. I think it definitely is. It is about your mind being calm and you being able to sit and be like, okay, everything is okay. You know, my mind isn't going everywhere, right? Like, just like we were talking about, like, if your mind is going, oh, I messed up this interaction, or I did this wrong, or I'm worrying about this and that, or this, like, I think that part of it, that's not a very peaceful mind, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with not having a peaceful mind, but to this point that we all hope to get is where we can just chill out for a second, right? Where our mind can just become calm and you can feel that peace radiate through every cell of your body. But even for me, that's taken I'm still working on that part, right? Like, I'm still getting there, and it's just because one day it is prevalent doesn't mean the next day it will be, right? And for me, especially, like, my journey has been, I feel good right now, right here, right now. But that's not to say that in the next hour, I will, or even the next day or the next week or whatever. It's a constant journey. It's a constant discovery of, okay, what is what's the next step, right? Where's the next piece that I need to get from this? Where do I need to reclaim power from? What parts of myself do I want to embody now, right? And I think even as you evolve as a being, living authentically is going to mean so many different things, right? It may mean something at this point, but it's not necessarily definitive, right? Because we as human beings are not definitive, right? We evolve, we change. Change is our entire nature, right? To completely grow into something sometimes even unrecognizable, right? And so, like, again, I think I really love the analogy of, it's not one and done. Nothing is one and done in life, right? It's always a continual choice to decide how you want to live right now, what energy you want to embody right now. But, it gets a lot easier as long as you're doing what's authentic to you, right?
Well, and I would tie that back into, being a mom, right?
Yeah.
We're going to
Absolutely.
bring it back together.
Bring it back to being a mom.
As a woman, we go through different versions of ourselves, and we have different faces and different roles that we play. And so even becoming a mom is one thing, and embodying what that means to care and protect and to raise children from even when they're inside of you. And you have to embody what that you embody what that means. You don't have to, like, it just innately becomes part of you, right? And every journey, every step that our children are on, we then have to rise to that version or that role of whatever, wherever you guys are, right? And I equate a lot of that to really not necessarily losing myself in motherhood, but really embodying what it means to be a mother. And when you're in it, it doesn't feel like that's what you're doing. It feels like, you're trying to constantly find things that still resemble who you are. But what I think we forget as women is that we are pouring in to our children who we are. And this conversation right here is evident of that for me. It's very affirming to know that it's coming full circle and those different pieces are coming out. And I had to be authentic as a mother. I had to find what it meant to be your mom. And at such a young age, at 23, I had to really decide what kind of mom I wanted to be and look to my role models and look to the examples and look to what I didn't want to be and what I did want to be. And I knew there were certain pieces of me that I wanted to instill in you. I knew that I wanted to have a child feel safe every step of the way, feel heard, feel that you can become yourself and do what you wanted to do and have choices. And I knew I wanted the level of trust that we had to instill in each other. And even to the first time that you made such a big mistake or whatever the case may be, or you made a choice and this is what it turned into. Because I don't really believe in mistakes. I believe that you make choices and that there's outcomes for it. And the best part about that is you're going to learn from it, right? And, just reminding you that it doesn't matter what you do. You can do anything in the world, right, wrong, or indifferent, but I'm going to love you through it, no matter what. And I knew I wanted to instill those types of things, and that stability was huge for me, because I didn't want you moving around all the time. And being, in a military family, I was grateful that, your dad understood that piece and understood that that's what, we needed, which was stability. Yeah. And to be a teacher, like to know that we're going to be on the same schedule, there's going to be stability. So I had to become authentic as a mom to figure out what it was that was going to fit me, because I wasn't going to try to fit a specific mold or a specific label or a specific type of mom, because then it wouldn't be who I was. And then watching you through these different stages of you going off to school, or you going on your own and things like that. Like I had to grieve different versions of what I was as a mom, and then still know that there's the next level. There's the next version of that. And, every time I still become more of myself, and I come back to that of now I get to focus on this part of myself. And while you were growing up, there were other parts I got to focus on. So it's hard to see it when you're in it, but once you're out of it, and once once your children grow older, like you start to see those different versions of you come out. But if you're not with conviction and with confidence and with courage and with all of those pieces, then your kids are going to see that. They're going to see right through that, because they're part of you. So it's important to be your true version of yourself, whatever that version is at the time, and whatever that focus and priority is at the time. If your priority is, keeping that family together, keeping that stability together, and leveling out, then that's what that is. Yeah. So it's not necessarily, I can't be myself because I'm a mom. I have to be a mom all the time. No, I can embody motherhood into my life as a woman, and embrace that and celebrate that and appreciate that.
Wow. That is so beautiful.
But that's what you do.
Yeah.
That
is so beautiful. And for you to put it that way. So I want to ask you a really big question. What would you recommend to somebody who is trying to find that conviction in themselves, who's trying to find that confidence in themselves to be their authentic self? What, parts of your journey helped you get to that point?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. Let's see. Yeah. Every journey is going to be different.
Right.
I think the biggest pieces were just,
how do you have the courage to discover yourself?
I think it's just curiosity. Honestly. I was curious to see what that version of me looked like. And I communicated that. I voiced that. I put that out into the universe. I put that out to the people that I care about, and that's how it happened. And I just voiced it. Just decided, like, what would that look like? And for me, I'm not a person that can just see something and say, okay, that's what that is. I have to live it. I have to be in that moment. I have to be in the presence of whatever it is that I want for that to happen. And so for me, like, I had to put myself there. I had to visualize it. Like this house, I had to stand on this land to know that this is the house. This is where I wanted to build our house. Even living at the house we had prior to that, like I had to walk through it and see myself actually.
You had to walk the walk.
I had to walk the walk.
I think that is such a beautiful answer. And that is inevitably the question that I always ask myself when I'm, discovering myself and, working on discovering. It is that curiosity. It's the curiosity of, what is my full potential?
Mm-hmm.
right? What am I truly capable of?
Mm-hmm.
What can I truly accomplish in this life?
Right.
I think being curious to that, asking yourself that question, what is my full potential? I remember I went on a walk and I just sat by this tree and I had this whole rant with myself, of just what am I truly capable of?
Mm-hmm.
What am I truly able to do? And you're absolutely right. That curiosity is what is the catalyst to all of that. Being curious of who you really are, what inherent abilities, things, bring you joy, and what is inherently your gifts, kind of thing. And you're right, it's different for everyone because we all have our own authentic, soul, sole reason of what we came to in this life to experience. And I also want to say that, like, something as simple as I like drawing, or I like making poetry, or I like swimming in lakes, right? Or I like going on long drives, or I like listening to music. Like, these are all things that are authentic to you.
Yeah.
And authenticity is not necessarily, I have to find my life purpose. Authenticity is what brings you joy, what feels good to you, what makes you get giddy, right? And so, like, it is curiosity. It is absolute curiosity that allows you to really expand upon who you are.
And it's facing those fears because you're going to be afraid every time of something different, of something new.
We're afraid of change.
We're afraid of change.
Yeah.
We're afraid of, if I put myself in this position, will I feel bad, guilty, ashamed? Will I feel too scared? Will I chicken out?
Yeah.
Will I, not be able to do it, or whatever else? And there's been at least 3 or 4 things I've done in the last year, maybe even 2 years, right? That I enjoy the feeling of right after I have done something. I've let go of all that fear. Like, we talk about that peace in your mind. Mm-hmm. Everything gets quiet. And you realize you just did something so brave. You did something so amazing for yourself, whatever that is, right?
That you wouldn't have done if you didn't go down that path.
Right.
Yeah.
If I didn't ask myself those questions, if I didn't ask myself, what does this look like? Yeah. If I didn't give myself the ability to see it for what it is, to expand my horizons, to know my self-worth and to live through all these different experiences to get there, then I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Yeah.
And it's courage and it's bravery and it's a beautiful thing once you've done it. Yeah. And I'll even equate it to skydiving, right? Like, there was never in a million years I thought I was that brave to do that. There were years of my life where I was just like, I played it safe because I had to, because of the life that I lived growing up, and nothing was safe. Yeah. Everything was crazy. Everything was chaotic. Everything was dangerous. Yeah. And then when I grew up and I had a stable life and I had something stable to stand on, I decided to start doing things like that, like skydiving and going in hot air balloons
which is so dope. Like, so
crazy,
dope.
Crazy
like
stuff.
You just reminded me that you did that. Like, that is so cool.
And like, kneeboarding and just out there. Like, I think skydiving was one of the bigger pieces because I remember, like, it's such an analogy for my life where I'm at now. It's just, I remember holding on, being on the plane and going up there, and like, you're just like, your heart is just in your throat and you're just like, what did I just sign up for? Like, oh my God. Like, and you're gripping on to everything because you're just like, okay, I just go, okay, we just got to do this, right?
Do it.
And then there's that moment where you let go, or you have to let go, right? Because you're coming out of the plane and they're like pushing you out. So you hold on so hard in that last second, and then all of a sudden you just let go because there's nothing else. You just completely surrender to it.
Yeah.
And there's just such a quiet, the fresh air up there, the way that it just hits you. And it's just the most calm feeling I've ever felt in my entire existence, is just letting go of the plane.
Yeah.
And then things get crazy and spirally, and you just, and then I get a little nauseous because, but it's that first moment when you're out there. And that is what I equate to all these really big life-changing experiences that I've had over the last couple of years of you just let go.
Yeah.
And you go and you fall into it, and you're in that present moment, and everything gets quiet.
Yeah. Wow.
And then you walk away from that and you're just like, okay, I don't feel all the things that I was afraid I was going to feel. I don't feel like this is going to be a horrible thing for me. Like when you know these things are what you needed to either heal or to move forward or to have, or to be in a better space or be a better version of yourself or just embody yourself, then it's worth it. It's worth everything and anything that comes next.
Yeah. That letting go piece is so important. And it's not a thing that you necessarily do on your own. It kind of just happens for you, right? Like, I kind of remember being in that really dark space, trying to hold on to everything, trying to hold on to everything in my life, right? And holding for dear life. And at some point I just couldn't hold on anymore, right? The universe was like, you can try all you want, but it's going to naturally blow up. It's going to naturally fall apart. And it was after, finally I was kind of forced to let go of everything that, the dust settled, the rubble settled. And from there, after letting go, it's okay. It's not that bad, right? Like, and we've been really talking about this analogy a lot, but when you go down into the depths of just life, and I use this analogy, the analogy of, it's like you're sinking all the way down to the bottom of the ocean, right? And you have these weights that you're kind of chained to yourself, and that can symbolize everything you're holding on to, and it's just dragging you down all the way down to the bottom of the ocean, and you don't want to let go. And so you drag yourself all the way down to the ocean, and it's dark, right? It's really dark down there. There's no light. You're at the bottom of the ocean with all those little sea creatures. But at some point you realize that you're breathing underwater, right? And you're at the depth of the darkness, but you're still alive. Yeah. You're still breathing. You're still here. And from that space, you're like, okay. You let go. Right. You finally let go. And as you let go more and more, you start moving back up.
You're floating.
You're floating back up to the surface. And it's not like you're swimming, right? Because it's just like, man, like I'm down here. It's going to take a while before I get back up there, right? Like I'm deep in the trenches of the ocean. I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like it's you're in no rush, right? Yeah. Because you've already experienced this really, really deep low. And so you're like, okay. The more you let go, and the more you let go, you're floating up. And you look back down and you're like, I was just down there. Right. And you're not scared of it anymore because you were just there, right? It's like, yeah, I can breathe underwater. It's dark down there, but I'll live. Yeah. And so the more and more you let go, the more you float back up to the surface. And you're like, oh man. You start feeling the light again, seeing the light. The water's a little bit warmer and warmer and warmer, and then you eventually get back up to the top. But I use that analogy because that's what it really feels like. It's this, I'm holding on for dear life, and then finally you're kind of forced to let go, and you're like, all right, cool. But in that space, the most beautiful transformations happen. The most beautiful things come to fruition. The most beautiful things fall into place out of nowhere, right? Like things have fallen into my life recently, since that letting go point where I'm like, what? Right? All the things that I've been trying to make happen, I don't have to try anymore. It just happens. And so you know, letting go is so important. And trust me, if you haven't let go already, you will, because it's inevitable. We all have to, right? The universe will push us to that point. And so it might not even be a thing of a conscious choice. It might be better if you can consciously, let go of the things you need to let go of. But, it doesn't have to be, because it will happen. But the biggest thing about that is once you start to let go, things happen. Miracles happen. Things come out of nowhere. Opportunities flood into your life.
Absolutely.
You're not chasing these things anymore. You are simply embodying who you are, your authentic soul. And through that, you're going to attract like energies.
And I will say, I think that there are people that genuinely carry a light and an energy and a sense of I think a lot of people carry that light, and people can have that shine as much as possible. But I do think that while we're trying to find ourselves or find what's buried underneath all the rubble, right? Then we are different versions of ourselves. We are different versions of those people that we look at and we're like, oh, I hope you get out of that soon someday, right? But I think that we forget that since we are always evolving and we're always changing, that we may be versions of that. We may be the victim, the villain, or the rescuer at some point in time. And we may play those roles for other people, and we may have other people play those roles for us. But we don't have to stay there. We don't, if we don't live there, we may visit it from time to time whenever we're going through something. But when we can catch it and we can acknowledge it and we can move past it, then we're in a better space. But I think that we forget that our energy, our vibe attracts our tribe, right? Like that is really true, because whatever vibe we're giving out at the time, whatever version we are at the time, and we can't always be that version. We can't always be that bright light for people. We can't always be right here and now having these great conversations. Sometimes we have to go within. We have to sit with ourselves. We have to live in the quiet. We have to feel the hurt and the pain and all of the things that we've been through. Mm-hmm. But that's energy too, right?
It has to flow.
Let it run its course. Right, let it do what it needs to do, because the more you bury it, then
that was
you're losing yourself.
That was one of the biggest lessons I had to learn in my journey,
right.
Not suppressing and not trying to gloss over it and trying to, just only think positive thoughts, only, try to be in a positive energy, or only try to think, in the ways that I want my life to look like, because then I'm just pushing all that down and I'm not really dealing with it. Right. And so it's what you resist will persist.
Absolutely.
And so that was one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn for myself, because it's impossible to just stay at 70 degrees all the time. Mm-hmm. Right. You can't do that. Imagine if the world was just only 70 degrees every single day. Right. It feels good, right, when it's nice. But if there was no rain, if there was no cold, if there was no anything, if there wasn't, duality,
Absolutely,
it would completely, deconstruct what actually is the opposite of what needs to happen, right? You have no good if there is no bad, right? You have no warm if there's no cold. And so duality is such an important part. And I say duality more so in the subject of opposites, being that you have to let things run its course. And that's part of the human experience, is experiencing those dark, low moments. But then also to return back to the wonderful, joyful moments. But, those dark moments define those joyful moments that much more.
Yep.
And so, yeah, absolutely. That's a really key point.
Well, and even speaking on duality, right? I think when you're in this transition and in this place, you are going to feel as if you were living two different lives for a minute.
Yeah. I remember you telling me
Right?
about that too. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Go into that for sure.
and it is because once you experience something that has changed your life, you almost have to, you're on your way out of that version of yourself, and now you're on this other path. So you're still connected to this other version of you, this part of you. So you're kind of living on two different playing fields, because you're not quite that person anymore, and you're not quite this person yet. So you're living in transition. Like there's just this moment where you're just like, it's out of body,
Yeah.
legitimately out of body.
Yeah.
Because you now know way more than, you can't go back to this.
Yeah.
You can't go back to that version. There's no possible way that you could be that person again.
Yeah.
Because now you're on this level.
Right.
But you're not quite accustomed to this life yet. So you live in this space for a while. And it's okay to be there. But it is very out of body. And you're like, I'm not sure which one that I can really fall into yet. But you know you can't go backwards. And once you know that, you grow into this version, and things settle and things become a part of you more so. And you look back on that part and you're just like, okay, I had to outgrow that.
Right.
You know, it's that feeling of outgrowing those versions of yourself.
Yeah.
And now you're here.
Yeah.
And again, it's that brave moment of just like, okay, I just have to take that final step and just live here now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and until the next version of myself
Right.
shows up.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to embrace that transition. We have to embrace, you know, the process. We have to trust the process and let it be what it needs to be.
Yeah.
And it's going to suck for a while.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be sure of anything. Right? And you're going to feel all the darkness of it as well. But kind of to your point, what you were saying with living in the ocean, and to me that reminds me of a Florence and the Machine song, that Never Let Me Go. And, you know, I'm not giving up, I'm just giving in. And it talks all about being in the ocean and just the pressures, hard to take. But, you know, it's the only way I can escape to this, to, you know, that heavy choice to make to get to that point. And on top of that, you and I have talked about this too, of just knowing that you've been down here before. So if you have to go there for a minute, if you do get into that darkness again, you know how to navigate through it because you've already been there.
Yeah.
It's familiar. It's not scary anymore to the point where you have no idea if you're going to get out of it. You know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, most of it has to do with surrendering to it.
Right.
And then you're going to float back up.
Yeah.
But you've been there. So now that you've been there, you've been to that darkest place that you possibly can imagine, then you're able to come back up from that and it'll be a quicker transition to be back up there. But yeah, you have to get down there to ascend. You have to descend. That's just really what it is. And because if not, you're just going to hit the surface, and you're always going to keep hitting the surface, and it's never going to get deeper for you. And the deeper parts of you, that's authenticity.
That's the authentic part. Yeah. Wow.
That's who you are.
That is so well said. So well said. Thank you so much for that.
Of course.
Wow. Yeah. I honestly, like, that has pretty much just encompassed the entire, you know, in a quick explanation, you know, of you know, the past couple years of discovering ourselves.
Yep.
Has really been, you know, the part of, you know, it begins where you realize that there are two paths, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you choose to go down the path less traveled, which is, you know, going into finding yourself and discovering who your authentic person is and your authentic being. And the reason you do that is because you're curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're curious to what the potential of who you really are is. The part of, you know, now that you've made that choice, okay, so, and some people call this an awakening, or some people call this, you know, whatever they want to call it, but it's definitely a split, you know, it's a split between, you know, this is where I want to be, this is where I am, or this is where I was, and here is where I am. So your new self isn't fully developed yet. Your old self is not really who you are yet. And so you're kind of in this state of, okay, now you're healing, right? Now you're trying to heal all these parts of your past self to get to your new self, but then also, working in this crazy, whatever you got going on. Like, we all have our own personal battles, our own personal things we have to kind of go into and go within to really sort out within ourselves. And we always will, I always will, you know what I'm saying? And then the next part of that is, to be honest, is facing some adversity of some sort, right? Is facing some kind of challenge, is facing that part that you really have to sit with. Yeah. And I think that's kind of just, in everybody's life experience, I believe there will be challenges. I don't think there is such thing as a person from age 0 to whatever that just experiences pure bliss, joy, and peace, right? Like,
then they're not really living.
They're not really living. Like, you come out the womb crying, right?
Right.
Like, that's
a lot.
It's a lot. Like, you're not warm anymore in the mother's womb. You're out in the cold world. So, like, I think in some way, especially when you are journeying to find your authentic self, you're going to face adversity. You're going to face, oh no, I think the camera died, but.
Is it charging?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, you're going to face some type of adversity, and we'll probably just have to move this over. You're going to face adversity of some type of sort. But once you can really go within and really overcome that, then you can start to let go of this old person that you were and really jump into and ascend into what you want to be. And so from there, more and more, and it's an everyday question, right? I ask myself, that's why I tattooed it on me, is how can I live authentically? What is this moment authentic to myself? And it's a reminder. And even if, sometimes I mean, like, nah, not really kind of thing, but at least I'm conscious of it, right? And so, going into and asking yourself, what is the most authentic thing I can do for myself? Is this authentic? And just simply being curious, right? Yep. Simply asking yourself the question, what does living authentically mean to me right now?
And I will say then, beyond that, beyond finding yourself and living authentically and being who you need to be, going through that self journey, the next part is, what do you give out into the world? And what do you give out to the people around you? I spoke about being a catalyst initially with people, but they always just leave, right? And then I'm left here, right? But I think understanding that those people need to go out into the world and do what they do, but the path that led us together, the path that led us to have that moment together, what can we learn from it? What can we gain from that? And I realize more and more as I get older that everybody has a purpose in my life. Everybody serves some type of either lesson or just experience, or to help me know more about myself, and hopefully giving them that same gift.
Yeah.
And then taking that into the world, whether it's through podcasts or through anything, art, music, education from on my end, trying out to be in this role that I'm now about to step into. So again, talk about duality, not really sure where you fit in just yet. But knowing that I'm going to go on to help other teachers, being a coach, and that's what that looks like. And knowing now that I had to go through all these parts, that being, coming into this role in life is going to help me in this role in my career, being authentic as a teacher, and then being able to teach others to do the same. But I had to embody all of that in order to now be authentic in this role, in this leadership role. And I think that we once we've gained that understanding, or understanding is that right?
Yeah.
That you like to say, that it's so important to know that you're a vessel and you're a witness and you're here to support and you're here to give out what you can
Yeah.
and give back to yourself in return. It's that cycle of things and that reciprocity of life, and to be okay with it,
Yeah.
to accept that maybe this is where our journey ends with certain people, or maybe it's just it ends right now and then later on
Yeah.
it'll pick back up somewhere else.
Right.
You never know when that's going to either end or begin.
Yeah.
And so live for it in the present.
Yeah.
Every day.
Absolutely.
But I think that's the whole message here, right? Is to be able to give back out what you're already internalizing within yourself.
Yeah.
So that others can do the same for themselves.
Right.
So there's a give and take, there's a flow.
Absolutely. And that last part, that's why the conviction, courage, and confidence is important.
Right.
That is why, because if you're able to really give back, that's that step. Absolutely. And I just want to slip that the courage and confidence and conviction becomes before that, because from there you can give back now, because
Right.
you're confident in that internal authenticity in
Right.
yourself, that you're able to now fill the whole world up, kind of
And
thing.
you're that stability.
Right.
Because you're living within yourself.
Right.
And you're able to speak that into existence.
Absolutely.
And you're able to stand on business.
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest part is people want to see that in someone else.
Yeah.
They want to know that this is what they see is what they get.
Right.
And they want to know that this person that they're looking to help them in some sort of way, even if they're not even consciously knowing that they're getting something from this, that person means what they are.
Yeah.
And they stand in that and
Yeah.
they live in that. And it doesn't mean we have to stay here and be this. We are, again, continuously evolving.
Mhm.
But yeah, if I'm in front of a parent and I'm about to teach their child, like, they want to know that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if you're living in this brand and in this moment, people want to know that you're doing your best to live in that moment too. It doesn't mean that you're not gonna ebb and flow through it. It just means, yep, I can trust that person is exactly who they say they are.
Yeah. Being genuine,
Being absolutely genuine. And knowing that people can go in and out of their phases and things that they need to do, but knowing they've already been there.
Yeah.
And they know how to come back out.
Yeah.
All of that's important.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, if you can't believe in yourself, then how do you expect anyone else
Right.
to believe what you're saying?
I saw this quote and it was like, we all want to save the world or change the world kind of thing. But how can we really save the world or change the world if we can't really change for ourselves?
Yeah.
If we can't save ourselves, if we can't, really sit with ourselves and be who we are. And so, the way that we can all save the world, the way that we can change the world is by embodying who we really are.
Right.
And that, really resonated with me. Like the best thing you can do for the world is doing that inner journeying, is doing that inner work, is doing that part of really going within yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think what you'll find there are so many truths that the universe will really, allow you to see, kind of thing, and reveal to you about yourself and about, your experience, kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's not valid. It's not outside validation.
Nah, never.
We've talked about this
Yeah.
before too. But it is amazing when people can see you.
Absolutely, yeah.
When you've put all this work in and you've done everything you can and you're really working on yourself and you're working on those parts of you. And when someone can say to you, I see you.
Right. But you had to see yourself first.
You did.
You had to see yourself first, or else no one else would have saw you.
Right.
I fully believe in, your external reality reflects your internal reality.
Right.
And so absolutely, it's really cool when people see what you're doing for yourself and everything like that. But, I don't really believe that it would be apparent if you didn't see it yourself.
You have to see it first.
You have to, because nobody can really tell you it. It has to be known within yourself.
But I think that's where things get mixed up, right? We think we have to get it validated first.
Yeah.
It's just the order that's mixed up.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, I have to be validated.
Right.
I need you to tell me. I need you to give me all of the affirmations that I need.
Yeah.
So that I can then figure out who I am.
Yeah.
And it's backwards. Let me find out who I am. Let me affirm what it is that I believe in, that I am.
Yeah.
And then once you start to pour that out, because you figured it out,
Yeah.
and you released it into the world, because this is what I want to portray,
Right.
and to be and to embody, then other people are going to, when they see that, it's not that, validation now that I know this is true. It's just, thank you. It's gratitude from there.
Yeah.
Right? I see you.
Yeah.
And then it's not that, oh, good, then somebody sees me, so now I can really be this. It's, thank you for seeing me.
Wow.
Really seeing me.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different conversation, right?
Absolutely.
Like, that changes the game. That changes the narrative.
Wow.
Because that's how it should be.
Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. That is beautiful. Wow. This is such a great conversation.
I know.
This is such a great
I love
conversation. This is wonderful. Wow. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being my mom. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom, not just in this podcast, but in everyday life, and being able to have you as my mom and, converse with you on all of these wonderful ideas is such a gift. And I hope to never take it for granted, because it really is inspiring and just so supportive to everything that I do. And I just really, really want to allow you to understand how much I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too. And I see you for who you are and what you're doing. And I believe in it wholeheartedly. And I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, Mom.
And I love you.
I love you too. Well, that has been a wonderful episode. This is a wonderful first episode. Is there anything else that you want to leave the viewers with? Anything you want to leave and end the episode on?
Just keep moving forward. Just
keep going.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, just keep going.
Keep going. That's such a beautiful message, and has been literally the thing that keeps me going every time. Like I don't know. I remember being in New York, and every person I came in contact with, they were like, "Just keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing." And that was so inspiring to me on so many levels, because I don't know. It's just it's confirming. It's that gratitude for affirming that. Okay, it's like the universe winking at you. Yeah.
Well, you're not stuck.
Yeah.
When people tell you to move forward and you keep moving, it's just, there's constant movement.
Yeah.
It's momentum. It's not, you're not stagnant.
Right.
When you stop and you don't move, then that's when you become stuck exactly where you are.
Yeah.
So even if it's a little movement, even if it's
one
moving,
step every day.
Yeah, it could be something small, and then the rest of your day you're just like, all right, that's as far as I got today.
Yeah.
Your to-do list is always going to be there, no matter what. But if you don't keep moving forward, if you don't keep that momentum, then you lose part of yourself in that, and create that space for yourself.
Yeah.
Hold space, create that environment that is safe for you to move forward in.
Yeah.
I think that's, if you don't cultivate that and you don't keep that going, then you are going to get stuck, and that's it. And that's as far as you're going to go. And then you're not, the growth won't be there. But if you continue to do that, and you continue to move, and you continue to keep pushing forward, then
one step at a time, you'll get
you're
there.
exactly where you need to be.
Yeah. Just keep going. Well, thank you so much, Mom. I love you so much.
Thank you for for this opportunity.
Yeah.
I feel very honored.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Well, this has been the first Live Authentically podcast episode. Thanks for watching if you've watched it. Yeah. Wonderful.
All right. Love and light.
Love
to
and light.
everyone.
Live authentically.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's a wrap.
Right. What are you giggling about over there?
Because y'all were talking about just like keep moving on or keep going, and in the back of my head, it's like from a couple years ago, this came out of nowhere. Keep going. Sam had said that he was like, I can't even remember